Saints win over the Giants just got even better, and I'm going to tell you why. Kellen Moore recently spoke to media and provided some updates around Justin Reid, Chase Young, and we're going to break it on down here at Saints Now by Chat Sports. My name is Trizzy Trace Girouard. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and let's get into it. Justin Reid yesterday, he did leave the game in the first quarter, and he was ruled out with the concussion. The reports during the game were that Justin Reid came out after, I believe it was the first touchdown that the Giants had in their opening drive. He came off the field, went to the injury tent. Pretty quickly after that, went to the locker room, and then inevitably was ruled out due to a concussion. But I want to tell you guys there is some good news to take away from this. For what it's worth, it could be a lot worse because if you ask me, when you have a concussion, I've never been concussed, but if you have a concussion, from what I understand, you're not supposed to be in bright lights. You're not supposed to be on your phone. You're not supposed to be where there's a ton of noise. And, at the Superdome, during a win, it gets loud. The lights are really bright. And then he was also posting on X during the game. So I'm not going to sit here and say that there's nothing to worry about here. But it feels like there is optimism leaving this game around his injury. And like I said, Justin Reid was active on social media throughout the game, and we can provide the timestamps to prove it. At 2:21, Justin Reid tweets out, "Let's go." It was right after the Jordan Howden scoop and score. And then he tweets this, "Blood in the water, let's keep eating," just a few minutes later. That was after Kool-Aid McKinstry's first interception. And then, the momentum's starting to build. You can see the script flipping for this team, and they're starting to take control of the game. He takes to Twitter and says, "Momentum. It's a hell of a drug." Very, very true. Momentum clearly carried throughout the second half for the Saints. They shut out the Giants in terms of scoring. No points allowed in the second half, which was awesome. And then he posted this just a few minutes later after the second McKinstry interception. Kool-Aid MF McKinstry. So his first tweet being at 2:21, his most recent tweet about the game at 2:48, that's multiple posts in about 20 minutes. I'm going to go ahead and take this as a sign of positivity. I think that when you take into consideration the type of injury that Justin Reid sustained, being a concussion, pretty good sign that he's on his phone, pretty good sign he's on the sideline, pretty good sign he's celebrating with the teammates. And in terms of an actual injury update, Kellen Moore did let us know he is in concussion protocol, so we'll have to see what happens. Obviously, there will be injury updates coming throughout the week. The injury report does drop on Wednesday, so we'll be able to see more in terms of what his availability will look like, and we'll also get more insight on some of the other injured players on Wednesday, which is why you should subscribe to the channel. We put out Saints videos every single day. Most days we put out 2 pieces of content. Multiple videos that are 10, 20 minutes long. I mean, what more could you ask for? It's news, rumors, updates, multiple live shows a week, and even more, all by Saints fans for Saints fans. And if you need another incentive, we're on the road to 100K. We're pretty far away. 48,000, that's not going to happen overnight. But you know what can happen in this video? We just get to 51,250. That's not that crazy even ask. We're just looking for about 25 new members of our Golden Gang. So lock us in for 100% free. That way you can also get injury news, updates, and live content around your favorite football team. Now, there's no question about it. The lack of depth in the safety room is pretty concerning if you ask me. And going into the season, let's go even further back before the season started. Going into training camp, you had Justin Reid, you had Tyrann Mathieu, you had Jonas, Sanker, Jordan Howden. Pretty nice little crew there. Then you have Tyrann Mathieu retired. So you go and sign Julian Blackmon, a really optimistic signing, a big player that gave you a lot of reason for hope for the defense. And then he gets hurt in the first week, gets placed on IR. His season's pretty much over. So that now leaves Jonas Sanker, rookie safety out of Virginia, to now be the starting safety. I'll tell you what, he's been good. I've been impressed with him. I like what I've seen out of Jonas Sanker. I mean, dare I say, this may be one of the best draft picks the New Orleans Saints have made since Eric McCoy. I mean, he's been really, really good, and he has emerged in a very strong fashion. But I also want to give a lot of credit to Jordan Howden because when he filled in for Justin Reid, he made his presence very, very known. And this is a play, remember, last year in week 1, he got a pick. He got the first interception of the season on Bryce Young. And so Jordan Howden's a player that when he's been given opportunities, sometimes doesn't go amazing, but a lot of times he does answer the call. And I think that he stepped up in a really big way against the Giants. And for what it's worth, I think that his growth is something to definitely pay attention to. And I don't want to say that Jonas Sanker only stepped up against the Giants. Jonas Sanker stepped up in a massive, massive way across the board. I've been so impressed with what he's been able to do so far for the Saints. He's a player who had 7 tackles and a fumble recovery yesterday. Jordan Howden also had that scoop and score touchdown, 86 yards to the crib. I mean, these guys are giving me some big reasons and some big optimism for the Saints defensive back room in the safety area specifically. I really like the future of that, but hear me out. Let's say the Saints have like the 5th, 6th pick or something. I mean, Jonas Sanker, Caleb Downs, Jordan Howden rotation. That would be pretty fun. I'm just saying it would be pretty cool. But we're not talking about the draft today. We're talking about the players who stepped up. So I want to give a lot of kudos to Jonas Sanker and Jordan Howden. And we're going to talk some injury updates around Chase Young, Cesar Ruiz, Dylan Raines, and a few other players here in just one moment. But first things first, got to tell you guys about today's presenting sponsor. And hey, it's back. Tushy, the best bidets ever. And look, I'm going to keep it real with you. After the Saints got their first win of the season, calling them a crappy team doesn't hit the same, especially now that I use a Tushy bidet every single day. And although New Orleans is rebuilding, it's never too soon to plan for Super Bowel season. Installing a Tushy bidet makes bathroom visits so much more comfortable for your guests and your pipes. Tushy is the everyday luxury bidet that instantly transforms your bathroom habits and bottom health for life. 99% of people who wash with the Tushy Wave feel cleaner and fresher after going to the bathroom, and every Tushy bidet easily attaches to your existing toilet without the need for additional plumbing. And look, I'm not somebody who has a ton of expertise as a handyman. I'm not a plumber. I'm not really good with power tools. The best thing that I can do is hammer a nail into the wall. But putting in a Tushy bidet in my bathroom was so dang easy, I would even say a Falcons fan could pull that off. So remember, a-hole is only a dirty word if you wipe. For a limited time, our listeners at Saints Now by Chat Sports can get 10% off their first bidet order when you use code CHAT at checkout. That's 10% off your first bidet order at hellotushy.com with promo code CHAT. It makes for a great gift. The holiday season is right around the corner. So go get yourself or a loved one a Tushy bidet, stash it in the closet, bring it out during the holiday season, and gift that to your friends, family, or to your roommate because Lord knows he probably needs a cleaner bathroom. Get started with Tushy bidets. Click the link in the comments and description of this video if you want to take advantage of the sale. Now let's talk about some injuries to monitor for this week. Again, we'll have to wait till the injury report comes out on Wednesday to know more information on some of these players, barring, massive breaking news. But I expect updates to come on Wednesday. Chase Young with the calf injury is somebody that we definitely need to take a look at and definitely monitor. We're going to talk about him in a second. Cesar Ruiz with his ankle injury. He's a player to take a look at and see, will he be available? Will he not? I doubt he will, but updates for him here in a moment. Dylan Raines, he also is an injury to monitor in terms of his toe injury. And then, of course, Justin Reid, we just talked about him. Really good news for the Saints. That was the only injury that really came out of this game. That's the only notable thing to discuss in terms of guys getting banged up in Week 5. So I think that it's a pretty good update in terms of injury news for the New Orleans Saints, which is why it makes this win so much better. You didn't really lose anybody to injury outside of Justin Reid. And when you did lose him, you saw a great emergence from Jonas Sanker and Jordan Howden. Now, let's talk Chase Young here. I'm just going to be totally honest. If Chase Young misses another week of football, I might crash out. I might lose it. We were told at one point this was a minor injury. He laughed it off. When we was asked, hey, you going to be missing some serious time? Hell no. That was his response. We've now had 5 weeks of football, and he has been available less than Taysom Hill and Foster Moreau. They started the season on the PUP list, and they both had severe knee injuries. And Taysom Hill tore 4 ligaments and his ACL in his knee. And he's 35. Let that settle in for a second. I'm not going to sit here and say Chase Young doesn't want to be on the field. I don't know why he continues to miss time, but it is a frustrating situation to say the least. Now, Kellen Moore did speak about Chase Young, and before I show this quote, let me make one thing explicitly clear here. By no means am I saying just get out there to play and risk further injury. That's not what I'm saying. What I am saying is what was once believed to be a minor injury clearly was not a minor injury. So somewhere along the line, somebody gave incorrect information. And that is a frustrating thing in itself. And of course, I don't know who to blame, but the situation in itself is very, very frustrating. And I don't think that you would disagree with me. Now let's get to Kellen Moore on Chase Young. Today, this is what he said, speaking to media on Monday afternoon. It was some really good work from his standpoint. We'll see if he's available to start ramping it back up on Wednesday. He's done a really good job. I know he wants to be out there. He's doing everything he possibly can. I think there's certainly some optimism there, and I think that that is some good news. But we've heard optimism around the injury before, so I'm just going to take it with a grain of salt. Now, Catherine Terrell, she put out this tweet because Kellen Moore did also add some context in terms of why he was ruled out on Wednesday as opposed to letting him try to get back throughout the week. And I actually think that it is an interesting point. For him, it was to reduce the outside pressure about whether or not he was playing. He said that there was no setbacks or anything, and he understands that the gamesmanship of the NFL, but just wanted to make things clear early. And I think that it was pretty interesting. He talked about it from a player standpoint. You don't want to be distracted. You just want to be able to focus on your recovery. And I do think that that makes sense. But all in all, the best thing for the New Orleans Saints to do is get him on the field sooner rather than later, because I do believe that Chase Young will improve this defense, and I think that this defense is a better squad with Chase Young on the field. I think that he is a player that could assist in the run game. He is a good run stopper. I think he's a player who could get after the quarterback and provide more sack production. I think he's somebody who just overall makes the defensive line a better unit because he has the high-level talent that not everyone else along the defensive line has or still has at their disposal. And when it comes to Chase Young, I can't help but think there's at least a few of those third downs throughout any of the last 5 games that you would have stopped. I can't help but think that there's a few of those times that there was pressures and the quarterback escaped the sack that he would have gone down. But I can tell you right now, in terms of the defensive line rotation, I think Chase Young is the player that needs to be the alpha guy. He needs to be the lead guy because that's what the New Orleans Saints paid him to be. Carl Granderson, in my personal opinion, I think he's great as a secondary edge rusher. I really like his abilities, and I really like his skill set, and I think that he's a player who is only getting better. Cam Jordan, in my opinion, awesome to have in the rotation. Awesome to be giving reps here and there to have him be fresh anytime he's on the field, though. You're not able to do that if Chase Young is unavailable. So if Chase Young is around, Carl Granderson is no longer your lead or star edge rusher. Cam Jordan's no longer the number 2. Chase Young is number 1, Granderson's number 2, and Cam Jordan can just get rotated in and just do his thing. And so in my opinion, Chase Young needs to get back on the field sooner rather than later. If he's not back this week, I might have a crash out, just full transparency. Now, let's talk about Cesar Ruiz because there is information around him. He did suffer an ankle injury versus the Buffalo Bills. Torselly Simpkins did come in Week 4 and in Week 5 and filled in for Ruiz. He did avoid IR, which is a pretty positive update. According to Nick Underhill, he has responded well to treatment, and his timeline to return is still TBD. That being said, when it comes to Cesar Ruiz, I think that he is a player that, of course, we're frustrated with, but I think the offensive line is better when he's on the field. I think for full transparency's sake, when you saw the full healthy offensive line early in that Bills game, which is the first time we've seen that this season, they looked good. Like, they really did look good. And I don't want to sit here and say Torselly Simpkins has been bad, but according to the Pro Football Focus grades, he wasn't awesome against the Giants. Again, PFF grades, you take it with a grain of salt. They're not the gospel when it comes to evaluating players, but I do think it's a good benchmark or a good measuring stick, if you will. And with Torselly Simpkins, it is really awesome that he has had a strong start and he has had a reliable preseason and he's been able to earn the trust of Kellen Moore to be the starter. It gives me optimism, gives me hope for the offensive line that we got a really high-level backup that maybe could develop into a starter and replace Cesar Ruiz, and we don't have to waste a draft pick on it or waste cap money on it. All in all, Torselly Simpkins, I think, is fine. He is not, in my opinion, 100% ready to be a full-time starter, but I think that he's a serviceable backup, and I think that he's somebody I have faith in while Cesar Ruiz is out. And I also want to say the fact that a defensive line that has Brian Burns, Dexter Lawrence, Kayvon Thibodeau, and Abdul Carter, They didn't sack Spencer Rattler once. He was under a lot of pressure. He did get a lot of guys in the backfield coming after him, but I think he managed it well, and I think he handled it really, really well. And some of that has to be credited to Spencer Rattler, of course, and some of that has to be credited to Kellen Moore for game planning and being ready for it. Now, again, injury report will drop Wednesday afternoon, and we will provide you with that information and with all the injury updates that are made available as soon as it's released. So make sure you subscribe to the channel, turn on your notifications. That way you don't miss on any of the updates around the black and gold. My name is Trizzy Trace Girouard. This has been Saints Now by Chat Sports, and our win over the Giants just got so much better.